Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Mind Heist episode. I got the episode wrong, bro. What is it? 147, yeah?
Now it's 147.
Yeah, now it's 147. It's good to have you back early, bro, because I thought we were going to be a few episodes without you.
Alhamdulillah. I'm glad that you've got me on the show. I mean, thank you for having me on Mind Heist. Alhamdulillah, akhi. Been through a lot. But I might not be here for the next few. I don't know. Everything's all over the place. But I've got an opportunity to do an episode, and I love Mind Heist, obviously.
Mashallah.
And here I am.
Mm.
Camera angle's looking a bit different.
Yes.
We spent 30 minutes trying to sort this out. It feels like it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, alhamdulillah. So, last episode, I didn't listen to it, I'm afraid. But I saw some clips that you've sent today. They seem to be quite interesting. I need to give that a listen, inshallah. So anyone who hasn't listened to the last episode, please do. And give us your feedback. I think it's audio only, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that because the brother didn't have a cam, or
He said,
is he
"Look,
self-conscious?
if we do video, I'm going to be walking around my house with the. I think he did it on his phone,
Oh, right.
so it wasn't ideal. But also, his internet connection wasn't the best.
Alhamdulillah, that's good. To be honest, how many times do you listen to like a 1 hour 30 minute or watch a 1 hour 30 minute?
Yeah, I don't, but
right,
apparently
probably.
some do. I don't know.
No. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, where to start, subhanallah. Do you know what? Let me
You know,
start.
you know what,
Go
bro?
on.
You seem like you seem like a guy who was prepared.
Yeah. You know, I want to talk about it because I got. Do you know what? I almost did a whole solo episode one day.
Yes.
And I can't remember. A lot of things happened, and I wasn't able to do it. But I'd come home. I was on my own. I thought, oh, do you know what? I've got so much on my mind. I wouldn't mind just letting it all out.
Yeah.
I hope you can't hear my dishwasher.
Nope.
Okay, good. SubhanAllah, where to start? So yeah, let's start with the last episode that we did together, which was
Yeah.
quite poignant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we spoke
Subhanallah.
about we spoke about death. Spoke about death of parents. Spoke about the trials that come along with it. And you know, that was a preparatory episode, no doubt about it. I think what's interesting is that we spoke about, and I did mention this on Twitter again, about no one's guaranteed a cinematic death. Yeah, no one's guaranteed a cinematic end to their life. And I think I've been very privileged that my father passed away in a very cinematic way, funnily enough, when I look back on how it all happened. And just to, obviously, those that do not know, my father did pass away not long after we did that episode. I can't remember when we launched it, but he passed away on Friday the 14th of January. But on the run up to that, so that morning, subhanAllah, woke up like any other day with my kids, had some work to do, got that done. Kids were at school. Well, one of them was at school. And we decided that day, you know what, let's go to my mum's house. Let's go see my dad as soon as we pick him up from school. And, you know, a couple of things were happening. I almost didn't go. All of this, you know, there's because lots of stuff was happening with we had other sort of things that we needed to get done, basically. But alhamdulillah, we managed to make it there. Sorry, I haven't really thought about this long, step by step until now, really. And then, halfway through that day, completely forgot. I took my wife and Ilyas, the little one, to Jum'ah. And subhanAllah, that khutbah, bro, I can't remember much of it, subhanAllah, but I do remember the topic was about death, like very specifically, not like, oh, we're going to brush on it. It was very specifically about death, very specifically about preparing for death and the stages of death and, you know, the stages of the afterlife, etc. But it was one of those classic, you know, death khutbahs. And that was very impactful, to the point where the Imam, may Allah bless him, came up to me afterwards, or he texted me afterwards. He was like, oh, Akhi, I didn't do it on purpose. Like, it just happened, because he saw me in the front row and he was like, oh, then he kind of thought. which is fine. I thought it was necessary. That day, a lot of my family had gone to see my dad, my extended family, and I was there, got everybody some food, etc. Recited some. I think it was yourself, wasn't it? You said to me, actually, you texted me that day, and you said you should try recite Surah Al-Baqarah on him, which is what I did. I took that advice and I did that, and then it turned out that day that everybody in my family had done the same thing. Maybe not Surah Al-Baqarah, but everyone in the family had recited Quran for him. My mum did, my sisters did. So that's something we found out later on. Anyway, let's just fast forward to what everyone wants to hear. I'd realised I hadn't prayed Isha yet, so it was getting kind of late, and I said to my wife, "Oh, let's go upstairs and pray Isha," because we decided we were going to stay the night that day. SubhanAllah, I almost took my kids back home because I was concerned that if my father was to pass away, I don't know how they would handle it. You know, with I didn't know what the vibe was going to be. You know, it's a house full of women. May Allah bless them. I didn't know. Anyway, the kids were fast asleep by this point. It was coming up to 11 p.m. Go upstairs to pray, and my sister, before we started, my sister calls me like, "Oh, can you come downstairs? Mum needs you. She needs to check something with Dad, Yani." Maybe she needed a second opinion. Maybe because of my work, I'm used to kind of checking for signs of life and stuff like that. I'd gone down there. Now, usually my dad is in a hospital bed within our living room sort of area, and usually the light's quite dim. You know, we don't want to obviously burden him with bright lights. I put the light on Akhi, and his face had noticeably changed colour. Like it was, despite the fact that he was bedridden and largely unresponsive during the run up, he looked different now. I can't really explain it. I don't know if it was the colour or something, just looked different. And this is something you prepare for. I prepared for this all this time, and I had sleepless nights because I just didn't know if the phone was going to ring, and I was in my flat as opposed to my mum's house, and all this sort of stuff. And this is where I talk about the cinematic nature of it all, because as I came rushing down the stairs, I ran over to my dad. All of my women folk, so to speak, my wife, my sisters, my mum, they're all behind me. They're all there, but they're all sort of behind me. You know, and I'm checking my dad, and I can see he's like kind of gasping. He's taking really slow gasps. And I can't remember what hand it was. I think it was my left hand because of the way he's leaning. I had it under his neck just to check his pulse. And as I did that, he took, a breath. And I'm like, okay, let me count how many seconds between each breath just to see how bad he is. And, he took one breath in my hand and the next breath never came. The next breath didn't come. And then I could see his jugular vein, subhanAllah, and Allah speaks about the jugular vein in the Quran as a sign of how close Allah is to a believer. I'm obviously paraphrasing, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer than the jugular vein is to us, yani. And I could see it pulsating, and for a split second I was a bit confused. I was like, he's not breathing, but I can see he's still going.
Yeah.
And then that slowly faded. And then the light, the eyes fade, and I don't necessarily want my family to listen to this, but I want to praise them in a way that I can't be prouder of my mum, my sisters, my wife, who were all there, because as a man you are concerned at this point how they were going to react. Like, okay, I need to hold the boat right now because this is what we've all been waiting for. And subhanallah, all I could hear was dhikr. All I could hear was Allahu Akbar. All I could hear was remembrance of Allah. Yes, there were tears and there was emotion, but there wasn't wailing, and there wasn't, this sort of you can't help but anticipate chaos, and there wasn't. And with that, obviously, I don't know if it's just me or something that Allah gives you, but no doubt there's a level of, okay, professionalism. I need to deal with this now. I need to, okay, this is work mode. I've got no time to be emotional now. There's a lot to do, And And for those that aren't familiar with the stages of somebody passing away in your house, if it's an expected death, of course. I mean, I could speak about both, but in this case, let's just talk about the expected death. Somebody has to come, a professional has to come to the house and confirm the death. It doesn't matter whether in this case, we called the local doctors who, my father died at 11 p.m. So they sent nurses round at like 1 a.m. They confirmed what we already knew. And by that time, when they came to confirm, his face had already changed significantly, akin to all the people I'd seen die previously. And it's different, bro, seeing your... It's different because I prepared myself a lot for this, because I think the past few years of me working in the role I was working in was preparation.
Yeah.
And I was scared. I think my biggest fear was at work, Akhi, and I have this thing, and I don't know if it's because I'm weak, bro, but at work, when I encounter a body or somebody who's passed away, and I've said this to some of my friends, I used to feel like it was like a wild animal, like I don't want to get close to it. I walk into the room where the deceased is, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to get near it. I have to obviously check signs, how they died, check if there's any injuries. I don't want to get near it. I don't want to get near that person. I just feel so, please, do I have to do this? Can someone else do this? Obviously, I do my duty, but at the same time, it's like really like
Minimal.
So I was very minimal, Akhi. So I was very scared that I was going to feel that way about my dad. I really was, and it terrified me. Likewise with Ghusl, bro. You read about Ghusl, and clearly it should be the people that, number one, men for men, women for women, but also those that are closest to them, really. That's recommended. I didn't read up on Ghusl, didn't want to look at it up until that day, that night even, that evening. I thought, you know what, I need to just look at this. I can't just stop running away. Let me just look online. It was very simple. It was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. But I'd always been like, oh, I don't need to know this. I don't need to, which is a weakness on my part. But that night, subhanAllah, is when I actually decided, rip it off like a band-aid. Let me read about this. So likewise, I thought I was going to have this aversion. That's the word I'm looking for. This aversion to my father's body. Actually, that didn't exist. On the run-up, and everybody's listened to, 100 and whatever episodes of Mind Heist. Some people have messaged me like, oh, Akhi, you spoke about your father a lot on Mind Heist, and they felt some affinity there because it was almost like they lived that kind of life with me, right?
Yeah.
All those barriers I spoke about in previous episodes, they didn't exist anymore. And they didn't exist up until the run-up. The last few times I spoke to my dad, that barrier was gone. The messages he would send me, there is no barrier, Akhi. That dunyawi barrier had evaporated by Allah's mercy. And likewise, the barrier that would, traditionally be there for a typical old school Arab dad and their second generation son, of like being able to hold their hand or kiss them on the head or give them a hug. Those things they're not very comfortable things to do typically when you're both healthy and you're both happy.
Yeah.
They'd all evaporated, Akhi, all of this stuff, and that is, we'll get onto that, but it was a phenomenal thing. Anyway, they can come to confirm the death, and then after that, you have to. Some people already have like funeral directors arranged. Some people, we have one locally here. It's a smaller Muslim community than Brighton, but there's one that works quite closely with the Muslim community here, so they're quite clued up. There's a volunteer. May Allah bless him. Make dua for this volunteer. SubhanAllah, he is honestly gives up so much of his time, and he just basically liaises with the funeral directors and does everything, really. You just have to get the paperwork for him, and he's the middleman for the Muslim community, right? Amazing uncle, subhanallah. Can't thank him enough. He literally on call, like if anybody locally dies, he's there to support and there to manage and there to advise. Now, I don't know if it's the right time to talk about hiccups and stuff, but anyway, they come and they, obviously I called family to come over, to extended family, and it was quite emotional for them, and different people deal with things in different ways. But alhamdulillah, when everybody had kind of satisfied themselves with saying goodbye to him, the undertakers essentially come and remove the body to a secure location like a mortuary, right? Now, my father died on a Friday night, and you can imagine Saturday, Sunday, weekends. You can't get the death certificate until Mondays when the doctor's in. All this nonsense. I was quite furious. On Monday, call up first thing in the morning. Oh, your specific doctor isn't in, so it'll have to be tomorrow. It's like it's a piece of paper with his name on. Everything's confirmed. Can't you just get another doctor to do it? No. And don't, for anyone thinking I didn't try, I definitely tried. I'm very conscious of the fact that it has to be buried as soon as possible. I know there was a few people messaging saying, "Oh, why didn't you do it as soon as possible? Like, let's have some husn al-dhan. Like, I'm a grown man with a beard. Like, come on." I think I know that, but that's fine. I appreciate that, and I appreciate any advice like that. But at the time, I was just like, "Come on," Anyway, the other hard thing was obviously informing his mother back abroad, my grandmother, informing his sister, my auntie abroad. How do you manage that? There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of, do we take him back to Tunisia to be buried? Do we, and there's a lot, and I could go on for a long time about transporting a deceased abroad. I asked Mufti about it actually on the run-up, because I know that was originally what my father wanted. And Mufti's fatwa, not fatwa, but advice at least, was it's kind of, there's two opinions whether you should or shouldn't, Islamically speaking. The scholars differ. And even if you can, there should be conditions like there's going to be harm to the body if it's left here in this non-Muslim country, other stuff as well. But essentially, his final kind of advice was, if you believe it's impermissible, then it's impermissible. Because you've made your ijtihad based on the opinions that are out there. If you believe it's permissible, then... Anyway.
What's the reason that... Islamically, it's better to transport the body to another country?
So they... For example, let's say it's a Christian country. I don't think this example exists here, but let's say it's a country where you fear that there's going to be harm to the body when it's here. So you bury it somewhere.
Or whatever.
They're going to cremate it, or they're going to find out, that there's going to be a witch hunt for the Muslims or something like that, right?
Right.
Something where there's going to be harm. But the main issue I had, which I couldn't get confirmed, and actually I found some sort of viral thing the other day. I saw it on Twitter where somebody had shared this, where a doctor had shared about the process of actually transporting a body abroad, the things they do in preparation for it.
Yeah,
all these. I did a lot of research. Apparently, essentially, what I whittled it down to, and anyone can correct me, but some airlines require that the body be embalmed, which I'll go into shortly. Others don't. But even the ones that don't, such as the one that Tunis Air said to me they don't, but I can't confirm that because the people I'm speaking to aren't necessarily the experts. They're just the secretary on the phone, or oh no, we don't do that. Oh, don't worry about it. I can't confirm.
Yeah, I you don't know until it's happening.
Yeah, and I've got conflicting, because there's some people that say, oh, they do, and some people within the Tunisian sort of pipeline say that they do. So it's very I don't want to risk this. And just to get into embalming, briefly, there's a lot of alcohol involved, in the body, and pumping of all sorts in the body, and organs are removed, and
taking fluids out and stuff,
stuff like that. Put them in a zinc-lined bag, and nobody can open the casket when it gets there, and blah 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 blah. A lot of harm, and we know about harm in the body, and we know about respecting the deceased body and stuff like that. And there was a bit of conflict and a bit of tension initially. And I want to stop on this point, because when I had those phone calls abroad, speaking to my gran, my family, etc., I wavered, I'll be honest. Because initially I was like, okay, he's going to get buried here. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I wavered, wallahi, after I heard, you can imagine his mother crying to me on the phone. I wavered. I was like, oh, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. I went down to my mother to speak to her. And my auntie was in the room, and she said to my mum, what do you want to do? To my mum, what do you want to do? And my mum, may Allah bless my mum, because that's what gave me strength. Because she said, it doesn't matter what I want to do. What matters is what Allah wants. What Allah wants is what matters, so I don't care. We're going to do what Allah... And at that point, I was like, subhanAllah, if my mum, my father's wife for God knows how many years, is unshakable in this situation, then who am I to waver, right? And And it shows you, subhanAllah, because initially when I told my family, I thought, oh, maybe if I go around the coronavirus route, or they'll kind of understand. They weren't having it. They're like, bring him. That's it. No, bring him now. That's it. As soon as we told my auntie on the phone, subhanAllah, she said, when are you coming? When are you bringing him?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And that's love. That's out of love, by the way, obviously.
Of course,
it's not out of, stress or animosity. But wallahi, akhi, and this is a lesson I wanted to share. This lesson, one of many lessons I learned. When my mum made that decision, fi sabilillah, 4 or 5 hours later, akhi, the family abroad that I told, wait till Monday, we'll talk about it, because I had a delay anyway. They called me, they said, you know what? We understand. Do what's best. Just bury him there, do it quickly. These are people, akhi, may Allah bless them, illiterate. Okay, my gran and my auntie, illiterate, simple village people, very easily influenced by culture, let's say. Straight away giving examples of this person died and they brought them, and this person in France died and they brought them. So lots of things they don't know, not aware of. And that always was my biggest fear. But akhi, subhanAllah, my mum went fi sabilillah, and I followed her in that fi sabilillah, and they messaged us and called us later on, just do what's best, just get him buried. And I was just like, subhanAllah, like when you do something fi sabilillah, Allah will open those doors for you. And I know it's a minor and very specific scenario I've just given, but you don't understand how much of a weight that was being lifted when they said that, because that was one of the hardest things on the run up. So next stage, anyway, eventually I got the paperwork that I needed by a whisker, bro. I got the paperwork that I needed. I got the council stuff. There were so many things. I don't want to go into them. So many hiccups, so many ups and downs. This department not talking to this department, and the council not talking to the doctor, and the doctor sending a blank PDF, and all blah, blah, blah. I had to do so much stuff. And at the same time, I need people to attend the janazah, right? But people are asking me, messaging me, when is it? And you can't give them what they want to know. And you feel so at odds because you want people to attend. But if you give them like a couple of hours notice, they're not coming. But no, alhamdulillah, can't remember the days now. Was it a Thursday, the janazah? I don't even remember. Essentially, the day before, I found out at 8 p.m. Everything got confirmed at 8 p.m. at night, the day before. So as soon as I found out, I just, social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, everybody and their nan knew. Hopefully, a lot of people did message me after not knowing, which is fine. That's my fault. But it just shows you, like, you plan and Allah plans, and Allah's the best of planners, right? You do your best. And ultimately, this is another lesson. Lesson 2. I wish I wrote all of these down. Lesson 2. I was so cautious, akhi, that I knew that all my father wanted, now that he is in the next phase of his existence, is that he just wanted to be buried straight away, because I didn't have a fear of my dad's end. My dad passed away, despite everything we mentioned in the podcast before, and the ups and downs and his history. My dad was praying with his eyes because he couldn't pray with his limbs. My dad was making istighfar left, right, and center. My dad was making his shahada left, right, and center. My dad was asking me questions about the deen. I told my mum recently, I was like, you know what, mum, I feel like I won the war against my dad. I say war, maybe that's a bit too harsh, but like, I won. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I went to give my dad dawah throughout, past 10 years, I guess, since I started practicing. And I'm happy because I won. He died with a beard, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, things like that. So who am I to be upset? So I'm not scared of my dad's akhirah. I really am not. And I haven't even got the slightest, because I can make dua for him. There's so much I can do for him. The way that he died was so cinematic. And it had so much meaning to it. To be surrounded by your family, to die in your son's hand. I said to some brothers, I said, after jihad, I don't know what better way can you die in this day and age for him, in his situation. And I know I come from a place of privilege saying that, because that was very cinematic, and it was almost like a movie, subhanAllah, even though I said that you're not guaranteed to have that.
Yeah. I
know I might never have that. I mean, you might never have that. It could just be a sudden, boom, gone. I know that maybe the way that my family reacted is because Allah blessed them with 2 years of preparation.
Yeah.
And 2 years of being with him. So I don't want to say, look at me, look at us, we did it so well, be like us. No. I'm just saying, alhamdulillah, that's all I can say. That's all it's
something that Allah gave him, and something that Allah gave all of you.
Absolutely.
Even those little details you mentioned about the khutbah, and the fact that the khutbah plus the episode we did before that, plus the fact that you were staying over that night.
Yeah, yeah.
All these things is from Allah, yani.
I don't think we'd ever stayed over, all of us. Like, I'd stayed over a few times, but like me, my wife, my kids, that was the first time as well.
And this is the thing, like, someone else might say that's coincidence. What a great coincidence.
Yeah.
But it's not coincidence, yani. If something happened, it's because Allah specifically intended it to happen.
Absolutely.
And when you see the world like that, you start seeing so many blessings.
Yeah, absolutely. And a part of grieving and mourning, I felt like I got that in advance. I had days, Akhi, like on the run up to this week, I had days where it almost like it already died. Like, I had days where I was just, just emotional, I suppose, as you would be. I had 24 hours before he died, Akhi. I went on the longest walk, like on the seafront. The stars were out. It was beautiful. I just sat there, just contemplating. You look up at the stars, Akhi, and you just realize how small you are, how insignificant you are. You start picturing the soul ascending those heavens, because that's what kind of happens for a good soul that, at that moment before they're questioned in the grave, right? And you're just visualizing all of this and you're kind of internalizing it. And I checked, because I took some photos of the stars, and I checked, and it was like 24 hours exactly, bro, from that period. Not that that's, anything to brag about, but it's just adding to this cinematic nature of it all, right? What's the next chapter? So the next chapter is, I suppose, the ghusl. I've never done it before. I've never done the ghusl before. I've never even attended a janazah in the UK before.
Really?
Yeah, not in the UK. And I was surprised. A lot of brothers said the same thing to me. A lot of brothers I had assumed had and always would, like up in London and stuff, where there's probably janazahs all the time. They said to me they hadn't. I've attended janazahs before in North Africa, in Tunisia, and Morocco, etc. But in the UK, I haven't been alerted to many. And even when I have, I've definitely been working and it's been short notice. But obviously, we've got a smaller Muslim community here. So yeah, ghusl. That morning, 9 a.m., I had to be at the cemetery. It's a cemetery, bro. It's got a Muslim section. It's obviously run by the local council. Bro, this cemetery, everything has to be flat. This is just the council rules. You're not allowed statues. You're not allowed built up things. You're not allowed. It can't be bigger than a. It was like, this is a Sunnah cemetery. What's going on? Wallahi, akhi, you go to the cemetery. I'll put some videos up on my Instagram. Some people might have seen it. It looks like a Muslim cemetery because there's everything. The most people have is like a plaque on the floor, like a flat plaque.
That's the rule, yeah.
Yeah, that's the rule. And I think maybe it's because of the type of ground it is, and also it's on like a hill, like a slope that overlooks the ocean and stuff. So they have their rules, bro. And when I was reading that, and when I was looking at it, I was like, SubhanAllah, like if I took him back to Tunisia, bro, I would have had no control over what people would have built on top of him. I would have had no control over what people would have done to the grave, because there's women that go before Eid, and they have these weird cultural traditions where they go over there and they start wailing, they're scratching at the grave and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, double check what your cemeteries are like. Obviously, there's a lot of Muslim cemeteries in London that I'm aware of. I've been to one that looked really good. This is another thing. Awesome. So in the cemetery, they had like a washroom facility place. I'm waiting for the funeral directors to come with my dad. I'm like, it's 9 a.m. Everybody told me to be here at 9, and I'm here at 9. The Muslim liaison guy, may Allah bless him, he was running late. He said, I'll be there as soon as I can. I couldn't find the funeral directors. And then he told me, there's like a lock, there's a keypad thing, go into this room and, prepare. SubhanAllah, I went in there, bro. I could see that my dad's coffin. I see a coffin right there as soon as I open the door. It's got his name on it. And I was like, the coffin's here. Maybe they brought this, a bit earlier on or whatever. And I looked to my left, akhi, and obviously my dad's there with a sheet covered over him. And I was like, SubhanAllah, I wasn't even expecting that. I didn't even know he was here, So they must have come earlier on and left him there, and then obviously just left. Which initially I was a bit like, why would you do that? That's weird. You just leave him in a locked room and walk out and leave the cemetery. Anyway, I didn't have the energy. Once again, akhi, the fear of aversion came in. Not the aversion itself, but like, am I going to really do this? Like, I want to do it. I'm here to do it. I'm confident I'm going to do it. You got I think my family were messaging me like, are you sure? Like, this is Akhi, Allah gives you the strength out of nowhere. I don't know if it's. I remember Bilal Asad speaking about his son, subhanAllah, when he lost his son. May Allah have mercy on his son and his brother, of course. May Allah have mercy on them both. And he spoke about this strength that Allah gives you to deal with these things. I didn't have anyone to lean on. One of my uncles I could really probably expect to lean on in this matter. He had actually gone to Tunisia the day after my dad died, which is great because he actually went to see my family over there. But like even him, he wasn't there, so it was like, "Yo, I've got to deal with this now. Let's do this,"
Yeah.
And even now, actually, like look at me. And at the cemetery, bro, and at the funeral, and at the janazah, I was smiling. I felt guilty, actually, because I was smiling. I was saying hello to people, and I had a smile on my face.
Yeah.
I feel guilty now, but at the same time, like I said, I couldn't ask for anything more.
What you said about your dad's akhirah, like that's enough to give someone peace in their heart.
No, alhamdulillah, because I couldn't ask knowing him, obviously Allah guides whoever he wills in a manner that he wills, in whatever level or daraja he wants, but knowing him, I was impressed by the history that he had and how far he'd come. Eventually the brothers came to do also, 2 other brothers, so there's 3 of us. My dad's quite tall, much taller than me, so you can imagine it's no smell, no nothing. Like I spoke to my mum about this, but at work you go to someone who's just died, akhi, in an hour, and you're smelling stuff. And that was another fear. Like, am I going to start smelling things? Is that smell going to be something that I associate with my father? That's not what I want. There was no smell in the house when he was like 2 or 3 hours in our house, and even that was quite surprising to me. Allah knows best. No negative smell, yani. And likewise here. Now I know obviously there's mortuaries and they have their places of allocation to keep the people that are deceased, but nothing, no smell, no nothing, akhi. It was just clean. The ghusl process, I'll go into it briefly. Obviously this is from memory, but for those that I don't know, and I'm sure there is many that don't know, because I definitely didn't look into it. It's quite a discreet process. Naturally, you're going to wash the entire body, but the awrah is always covered. I've never seen my dad so vulnerable. That's something you got to prepare yourself for. But at the same time, akhi, during the process, it's like performing a ghusl. You'd start with like doing a wudu. So you're doing the wudu for the individual, hands, mouth, nose, head, that face. You know what wudu is. I don't have to go through that. But like when it comes to the mouth, you're like wiping over the mouth. When it comes to the nose, you're wiping over the nose. And then the ghusl process is essentially, I don't know if this is additional, but they had like this sort of soapy water, fresh sponges, wash the entire body, rinse the body, right, left, all over, 3 times each, etc. It's on a table that is quite indented. It's got a drain in the middle, so any water and soap just gets drained straight out. And I remember actually while I was doing it, and I told the brothers, I said, look, I've never done this before. Tell me what I need to do, what you need my help with. I'll do it. You're cutting your father's clothes off with scissors, and you're very conscious not to, slip or whatever. But actually, ultimately, the lesson I drew from that goes back to what I said earlier about the strength that Allah gives you. Because I was doing that, akhi, just like, I don't know if the right word is nonchalantly, but like just not even considering. And I remember at one point I paused. I was like, what's wrong with me? Shouldn't I be like absolutely in bits right now? I was I'm one thing that I can't get out of my head, actually, is you're pouring water over your dad's face and he's not blinking. He's just no reaction. It's such a weird image. It's just nothing. And I've never got that close to my dad. I've never been that close. I'm giving him a bath, essentially. I've never done that in my life. And only then do you start seeing the effects of cancer, and you start seeing how much weight he's lost. Because really and truly, you can imagine the amount of weight he's lost, and that's obviously showing on his body. But I remember, bro, I was just like, at one point, I was like, subhanAllah, like, is there something wrong with me that I'm so desensitized to death that I'm not feeling hurt? And then I realized, no, do you know what? This is a strength. And I'll tell you when I realized this is a strength. Because there was a specific point when they bring the coffin in, and I can't remember how many sheets there is. Is it 2 sheets? I can't remember. Maybe I lost count. But at one point, there's a sheet with a hole in it in the middle. And they put that on the head, just through the head like that, so they can wrap accordingly. Akhi, when he had that sheet on, I was at the bottom, looking at it from his feet up. He had the sheet on. I could see his face. I was like, SubhanAllah, he looks like he's going for Umrah. Swear to God. He's wearing a whole white sheet. And that's what they draw that analogy, don't they? About, the white thobes, the white cloth that you wear for Hajj and Umrah, the white cloth that you wear when you're buried. And I was like, whoa, this looks crazy. I've never seen, obviously my dad's never been to Hajj and Umrah, and may Allah enable me to perform that for him one day. But I was like, SubhanAllah, this is what it's about. Because this is like he's getting ready for a journey. That's what that felt like, and you could see it. I was like, SubhanAllah, like he looks like he's going, he looks like he's going. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I was happy. And
were you looking for like signs, like, for example, the Shaheed, that he smells like musk, for example, I would imagine you looking for any sign of good sign, you know what I mean?
To be honest, like, you want to say that. I don't know how much of it falls into me wishful thinking, but there are definitely things that I was like, he died on a Friday. He died with a stomach disease. There was a sweet smell in the room when I was at my mum's house that I couldn't attribute to anything but him. There was another sweet smell when I was in the, when I went to the washroom that I knew could only be him, But at the same time, I don't go out saying that to people because I don't know, and I don't want to say, oh, it's fine, In fact, on that point, I'm not going to share what the dream was specifically, but I was like, when am I going to have a dream about my dad? It's been like 2 weeks now and I just haven't had a dream about him. I remember when my grandfather died when I was young, I had a dream about him. I was like, and my mum has, my sisters might have done. Last night I had really bad sleep paralysis. I was all over the place, which is something common. I always get that. But like, I had a dream about my dad, And I won't share what he said. I won't share how he looked. But when I woke up, I was like, right, that's it. I'm fine. Like that was like the cherry on top of the cake of everything that had happened. All right. Actually, I will share it because I remember Bilal Assad shared his one, and I just didn't know if it was appropriate. So I'm going to use him as a premise. But it was a very short dream. Alhamdulillah, very very short. My dad was sitting on a table, and let me just add that I'd listened to like a whole series on the Barzakh a few days before this, like on the run up. So I was kind of very familiarizing myself and trying to put my mind and my feet in my dad's shoes, so to speak, of, okay, this is where he is now. This is what he's seeing now. This is what he's experiencing now. It's very weird when it's somebody and you're listening to those lectures, right? But he was sitting at a table and I'd come to sit next to him. And I wanted to ask him. I knew he was dead. It wasn't like, oh, I'm back with my dad again and this is like a weird, different experience or memory. No, I was eager to ask my dad how he's doing. And I couldn't speak to him. And it was interesting that I couldn't speak to him because I'm trying to say something and it's just stopped here. And it reminded me of what I was listening to in the lecture about there is some difference of opinion, but largely speaking, the living cannot speak to the dead. They can't communicate with them. And we know that. You can't speak to them anyway. Whether they know that you've visited the grave or whatever, that's for some scholars differ. But ultimately, I can't speak to no dead person and they can't reply to me. So in the dream, I was like, oh, it's my opportunity to ask him. And I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it past. And I remember even thinking as soon as I woke up, like, that means to me the barrier between the living and the dead.
Yeah.
However, he stopped me. He was just like, almost like, don't worry. And he said to me, don't worry. My nickname is Kabba in the house. He goes, don't worry, Kabba. Alhamdulillah. Labas aliyah. Everything's labas. Do you know what I mean? That was it. I woke up. And I was like, that's all I needed. I didn't need it even. It would have been nice. It was a cherry on top. It was a bonus. But, and, a lot of people attended the janazah. A lot of people came from all over. Some brothers came from like Southampton, from London, just for, Ustad Jamal. Ustad Jamal, of course. Ustad Jamal, Abdel Nasser. He showed up, bro. I hardly got to speak to him. He came all the way, came for the janazah and left back to London. Like some brothers came from so far. May Allah bless every single one. And I say again to the brothers that wanted to come and couldn't, may Allah bless you guys. The people that just made dua, may Allah bless you guys. I'm not here to, some people are apologizing way too much. I'm not, I'm the one who should be ashamed because there's so many janazahs I haven't been to and I feel guilty now. And I've got my blinkers on ready for the next janazah. Do you know what I mean? Just so I can be there, But Akhi, a lot of people send me advice and messages, and look, I know how hard it is for you. I know what's going on is tough. I know that you must feel so hurt, and I feel guilty because I don't, and I feel guilty because I want those guys to know, hey, this isn't an exclusive thing. Me speaking about this on Mind Heist or anywhere, I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal and say, oh, look, my father died. Everybody's going to lose someone. And the older we get, the more, the more trials like this we will face, no doubt. How many brothers messaged me that had already lost their father? Quite a few. How many brothers had already lost their mothers? Quite a few. So who am I? I'm not in that position. Just because I'm somewhat known online doesn't mean that I deserve any more than anyone else. Let's make dua for everybody who's lost loved ones. Bi'idhnillah. And yeah, one thing after another. My mother-in-law, and this is known publicly, otherwise I wouldn't share it, but my mother-in-law's been diagnosed with pretty severe cancer. That, once again, another trial, another test. May Allah grant her shifa. And now that's my wife, and we move, bro. And ultimately, the most valuable thing about this is that clip that we shared about the last episode that you said about, I'm trying to find it, but you wanted that Sahaba mindset of always knowing death's around the corner. That was a clip, right?
Yeah.
And I've been like that for like 2 or 3 weeks, since my father's died. And I said to a brother the other day, I said, I don't want to lose this. I haven't lost this as quickly as I would have done in the past. My life's changed, bro. When I think about Jannah, I don't think about, the food I'm going to eat and this and that. I think about, I'm going to see my dad. I can't wait. I'm not going to see my dad as he was here. I'm going to see my dad with all those barriers and veils and arguments and disagreements lifted. Now he's going to know what I was talking about, on the run up. Now he's going to understand why I was trying to advise him with. That's what I want to see. Like, I told you so, in a nice way. Yeah. I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to that. So ultimately, now that I've got that as like another anchoring point and a goal in front of me, no sin is worth any of that. No sin could ever come close. Come at me with a temptation and I'm going to bi'idhnillah bat that away. Like, I don't want to risk this. I've seen death in my very eyes, in my hand. The angel of death came through my fingers and took my dad. How much more impactful can you get? I couldn't ask for, all those signs that we spoke about, my work and those dead bodies and the crime and this and that and the evil in the world and the violence. Nothing compared to this, and we're all going to go through it. And it's not just me warning. I mean, I say all, obviously some are going to die before their parents, etc. But that was the first person I've ever lost that's so close to me. And I think we're all going to lose people. If it's not ourselves, we're going to lose someone that's very close to us. And when it's that person that's close to you, connecting their memory to the fact that they're not here anymore is the hardest thing to do. I sat by my father's grave yesterday, and I couldn't connect all of those memories I had with him with the fact that he's now underground. I just can't do it. It's so weird and alien to do that. The fact that there's a continuity there. And I think part of that is obviously because my father was always in Tunisia quite a lot of the time, and I spent a lot of the time without him. It's easy to fall into that subconscious, my dad's in Tunisia. My dad's abroad. My dad's just at his house. There's a lot of brothers and sisters that obviously already now live away from their family. I know, for example, you live away from your family, your mother and father, So if you were to lose one of them, you would subconsciously fall into this, when you're not paying attention, your subconscious tells you, they're just in the UAE. They're just back in the UK, whatever it is. And then you remember, Another lesson, the last one maybe before we open up the discussion a bit more, but the only things that are going to really hurt and harm you are the things that are already unnatural. You will have urges to look at videos and photos, You'll have urges, especially initially. I can look at a photo today and I'm okay. But initially it would ruin me. And then I realized this isn't from Islam. These photos and these videos, they're not something that the Sahaba would have had access to. It's a rahmah from Allah that we forget a little bit, and the heart heals and time heals. Through Allah, time heals that. We've got the right way? No. Through time by Allah, yeah. Allah uses time to heal us, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that is a rahmah, that is a mercy. Al-insanu yansa, and that's a mercy, really. Sometimes it's a curse, but in this case, it is definitely a mercy. And you can carry on and you can pick up. Now, there's obviously, for other people, it's harder. And for other people, I wouldn't even know how they cope. Uh, you know, may Allah guide us, Akhi, because I do honestly acknowledge that I speak from a place of absolute privilege. I know not everyone's guaranteed to have it that way, for it to be that way. But I think the biggest, the greatest lesson my father ever told me was actually his death. That was the greatest lesson I could ever leave, because we did always speak about dunya, and there were barriers in between us, dunya barriers. I felt like he wanted me to be something else. He wanted more out of me. Maybe one of the last things he said to me was, I love you more than you'll ever know. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I just wanted more for you. Not from me, but for me, Yani.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I see it. That's fine. Seal that present and I'll take that home because I'm good with that. I understand that, And ultimately, that's what a lot of our parents want. It's not necessarily they're trying to live what they couldn't live through our life, living through us vicariously. No, they just want better for us, just like I would want the best for my son. It takes a long time to obviously acknowledge that. But yeah, okay, that is the story. And it's a nice little sequel of the last episode we did. And even that was preparation. But may Allah bless everyone that reached out and that are still reaching out to this day. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy. And I hope and pray that Allah gives everybody else a similar, if not better, strength than I had during that time. You can't help but feel guilty. You see the movies and you see the books and you see everything of people just losing their minds. And it's like, the doubt that you have is that, do I not love my dad like these people do? Because I'm not losing my mind. Yeah, I get upset. I'm not saying I don't get upset. I absolutely miss him to bits. Of course I do. But the boost in Iman that all gave me was like, well, I'm going to see him soon, inshallah. I just need to focus on getting there. I need to focus on, I don't have the doubt that my dad's anywhere but good. So I need to hurry up and sort myself out. But yeah, bro, what do you think?
Mohamed, in the last episode, he, because, we started the episode just mentioning that and with the dua and stuff. And he said, that's something that Muslims have, that when they lose people close to them, they can always hope to meet them. Like, it's not the end of the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're saying that's something that seems to really help you, Yani.
Absolutely. I think it's, it's easy to let grief destroy your Iman. I can imagine some people, it cuts right through and makes them question things, which isn't good, to say why, which isn't good. Especially women. I think obviously women are very emotional creatures, so to speak, and it's easy for them to let those emotions take absolute control. My father has, naturally, people that are non-Muslim that are connected to him. Seeing how they were grieving was a real eye-opener, because I was like, I'm his son, and I don't feel like that, and you're losing your mind, subhanAllah. And also, it just shows you how, when you kind of get the map, you kind of know where you're going. We speak about that before. Like, when you're clueless as to what this dunya is about, of course, your mind's just going to be like reaching for every single possible explanation and answer. But when you've already been living, alhamdulillah, for the past 10 years or so of me practicing, living with the knowledge that, well, this is why we're here and this is what's going to happen, this is where we're going to go. When it does hit, it's not the ultimate shock to you. It's like, well, yeah, of course. Oh, I've just been distracted all this time. I haven't been ignorant and clueless. I've just been distracted. But for some people, they're ignorant and clueless. So when it does happen, they just can't make sense of it at all. And now they're just clutching at straws, just trying to pick themselves back together. Allah knows best, Akhi. May Allah guide us, keep us firm. And it's not just because I'm like this now and I'm guaranteed to be like this forever. We just ask Allah to always keep us guided, Akhi, and guide us more even. And, really, maybe for some people, this is a reminder for it to hit home. Ultimately, how many of things like this have I heard from other people? How many janazas have I seen being sent out on Twitter and stuff? How many reminders? So many things, Akhi. So many videos, so many lectures. so many things. But 3 weeks later, I feel like I've just watched a lecture. Or I don't know how many weeks it's been. It's been what, 14th? So yeah, 2 weeks later, sorry. 2 weeks later. Yeah. It feels like I've just watched the lecture just now. And I've got that Iman boost. I've just come out of khutbah. I've still 2 weeks later. I would never have dreamed. And maybe, I hope and pray this continues and strengthens throughout my whole life. Because I do definitely see the world differently now. And now I'm like conscious of, okay, I've got to go to bed now. Ooh, am I going to wake up tomorrow? Okay, let me think, what could I do? What's the last thing? What's my last deed? My social media, for anyone who has noticed, like Twitter and Instagram, I was like, listen, I'll put this on my bio actually to remind myself and to remind anyone. But every single tweet and post is a deed. Every single tweet and post is a deed. It's an opportunity as well. It's an opportunity. I know I am Akhitweet, so maybe Twitter is my sadaqah jariyah if I want it to be, right? Why not? Why not? I've benefited and a lot of people can benefit. So I was like, well, listen, I'm going to stop posting nonsense because I had to deactivate my father's Facebook. Not that he had anything wrong on there, but it was actually quite eye-opening. You know, I had to go through his phone to get some numbers and to sort some stuff out with his bank and all sorts. And I was going through my dad's phone. That's unheard of. You know, my dad had nothing to hide, miskin. The last thing on his search history was like how to make the perfect coffee. You know, and I was like, subhanAllah, you know, that was kind of sweet. But like, I was just like, I'm going through his phone just like someone will go through my phone. I'm going through his Facebook trying to find out how to deactivate it, just like someone will go through my stuff trying to get rid of it. Because my mum didn't want a lot of people messaging on there and stuff. I'm going through my feed, seeing pictures of him that my cousins are putting up in back home, saying, you know, may Allah have mercy on him. The whole village is commenting, and I'm like, someone might do that about me. So what legacy and what reputation am I going to leave behind? Not only for my own benefit, but for those around me that I leave behind. You know, I tell anyone, I don't have to, but I tell everybody that in Tunisia or here or anyone, I tell them about the change my dad made. I told his friends who are lagging and lacking in this field, in this Islamic sort of spirituality, praying, whatever you want to call it. They're not really practicing. I tell them to their face. I went and sat with my dad's best friend a few days after he died, maybe the day after he died, just to pay my respects. He was my dad's best friend in the UK. I sat with him. I told him my dad died praying and begging Allah for forgiveness. You know, truly and sincerely. That was dawah to that guy because he spent like every other day with him. You know, so that's an opportunity to go and give dawah to people that were close. But it made me think about Mind Heist as well. You know how, alhamdulillah, I think Mind Heist is quite reined in. But this episode and many others will be there when I'm not here, probably, unless YouTube gets bought out and corrupts and the whole planet goes. But you can imagine, you know, there's so much that we leave behind that are signs and examples for other people. There's a brother on Twitter, and I'm going to really forget his name. And some people may know who I'm talking about, subhanAllah. On Twitter at the moment, there's a brother. He went to Umrah. I don't know his name, subhanAllah. He went to Umrah with his mother. You might have seen it online. I'm just going to quickly scroll through in case he pops up. He went to Umrah with his mother, and he got into a car accident, I believe, and passed away on Umrah. And he's a young guy, maybe younger than me. I think his mother's okay, alhamdulillah. I'm only scrolling through. Oh, here he is. SubhanAllah, there he goes. He's popped up. His name is Zeki. People are sharing all sorts of good that he left behind. You know, his actual tweet about it. So this was on the 3rd of January. Wasn't my mum's first Umrah, but alhamdulillah, had the opportunity to bring her back after 17 years. May Allah accept our Umrah and allow us to return one day, alhamdulillah, for this blessed occasion. And that's just a picture of him with his mother there. And this has been quote tweeted. Imagine this being one of the last things you do in this world. Imagine how much Allah must love you. Guess we can all feel some contentment knowing he passed with a blank slate and he is in a better place. Inshallah. You know, and actually there was some Quran recitation that he was sharing on his Twitter. And now people are going on purpose, deliberately, like, everybody share this, come on, let's all listen to his Quran recitation, let's all benefit. All right. And there's good in the world, Akhi. That's ultimately one of the things. Like, I went to the embassy recently to sort out my dad's stuff with this apprehension that they're going to be difficult, because they usually are. Yeah. They remembered me when I came with my dad when he was like almost collapsing on the stairs. They remembered me. Goes, oh, did you come last time with your dad? I've never gone to the embassy without my dad. It's like, it was weird. First time walking in, I'm on my own. Like, okay, I need to take care of this. Actually, they 5 minutes. In fact, they made me fill out a piece of paper that was in English, which I was expecting them all to be Arabic or French. They said, listen, we're going to call you in 10 days and it'll all be done. Just come back and collect the stuff. I was like, fine. There's good in the world. And that's what I ultimately have learned from this. There's people that reached out that I just never thought they'd reach out. Look at this. There's people sharing, trying to multiply this brother's rewards who's passed away. This is the beauty of Islam, and I think it would get so caught up in the negatives and this person's on and this person's off and this person made this mistake and this person made that mistake. And I look at that stuff now, and that stuff sometimes would interest me. I see those thumbnails, I'm like, oh, what did that sheikh say? What did that brother say? Oh, look, he's been refuted. I wonder what he said. Not because I really care, but because I'm curious. I don't want anything to do with it, with all due respect, because it's a waste of my Islamic time. You know, it's a waste of everybody's time, because when I'm being put in the ground just like my father was, I ain't going to care about anyone but myself. You know, I'm not going to care about what Ustad Fulan and Sheikh Fulan and this person said miles and hundreds of miles away and what political issue is happening God knows where, you know, in terms of like who's on and who's off. And no. I'm just going to find what benefits me, bi'idhnillah, and what gets me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and let the chips fall where they may, you know.
One thing I've been thinking about is, yeah, if you're in that state, like you're saying, where the reminder of death is so fresh, well, you start thinking like, why would I do anything but what pleases Allah, or anything but what is direct worship of Allah, right? But then you kind of think, well, this is what I think anyway, and I think, okay, like that's a good sentiment, but how can I make it like something I'll do ongoing, you know, not for 1 week, but 1 year, 10 years.
I'll give you advice, only because I'm in the privileged position to do it. The benefit is I've lost my father, ultimately. Okay, that's the ultimate benefit in that regard, in that sort of situation we're talking about. The graveyard where my father's buried is 10 minutes away from my house. And it's generally on the way. I can take that road if I want to go to my mum's house. There's 2 ways to go to my mum's. And now I find myself taking that path more often, because I can take a 5-minute detour. It's a very convenient cemetery. You can drive into the whole complex and drive out. I can drive right up to my father's grave, park the car, and just step out. Super convenient, subhanAllah. You know, I can drive with my kids, and I did this quite a few times. Obviously, my kids, we'll get onto that because that's another dynamic actually I haven't discussed, how my children have dealt with this. But I can leave the kids in the car, step out, and I'm there. And that reminder, that 5 minutes, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about visiting the graves. Naturally, part of his advice to the Sahaba to visit the graves is the likelihood is they're going to recognize some of the people that are there. Yeah, and they're going to know that, oh, this is the grave of so and so. This is the grave of so and so. People died quite often then. People were quite close to each other. It was a village mentality. So yeah, that's where the real impact comes, because I sit there in the morning before, you know, I need to go to my mum's or whatever, and I'm like, this is real. This actually did happen. I only associate that cemetery with my father because that was the first time I'd ever been in there. So as soon as I get to the gates and I see that building where the washroom is, and I see the path leading down, I see that particular tree and that view, and I just associate it with that day, and it all comes back. Everything comes back, you know. And then I ponder a little bit about the memories that we had. I ponder a little bit about, and then I just ask Allah and I make dua for him, you know, and that sets me off for the day. And then I can't forget that. You know, not everybody's going to have that situation, obviously, like I said. Not everyone's going to have that. But I didn't visit the graveyard beforehand. I used to when I was young, because I used to walk through one to get to school. But it didn't really click in my head when I was younger. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's the advice, to spend once a week, maybe. If it's one on your way or whatever, if you can, more than that. If you're going for a walk somewhere, why not through the graveyard? I know a lot of people are like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It's scary, whatever. What are you scared of? You're scared of the truth. That's what you're scared of. That's the only thing you're scared of. That is scared of the inevitable.
Yeah. But you know, for example, you think, you know, whenever you visit a graveyard, you think all these people, they can't come back, right? And then you think, okay, how can I not want to even come back? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, oh, let me pray Qiyam al-Layl every night. Right. That's very highly pleasing to Allah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then how do you pray Qiyam al-Layl every night for the rest of your
Yeah,
life? Because how long will
yeah,
it last? 1 week?
yeah. I think the first step is putting a real block in front of those sins, temptations. That's what it does. I think the first one, because you've got this constant sort of. Hey, I'm not saying I'm like a habitual sinner. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. For example, like there are just things like you're like, I don't, I don't even want to go anywhere near this. You know, I don't. Sometimes your mind will play with you, and you just start just flipping, daydreaming, or how your life could have been different, or whatever. You don't even want to think. You know how there's a tradition in our religion. I don't know if it's a hadith or a saying, whatever, about like you're not truly repentful unless you really despise that sin. You never want to go back to it. You know, like
Mm.
you'd rather be thrown in the fire than go back to that sin or something along those lines. Like you just hate it so much. How many of us can say that about our jahiliyyah, quote unquote? That time we used to listen to music, or that time we used to do this, or used to do that, or whatever it is. You know, shisha lounges and God, and the link ups and blah blah blah. And sometimes you'll find us, you know, you find brothers sitting around, and myself included, find us sitting around speaking. Oh, back in jahiliyyah, remember? Oh yeah, the good old days. You know,
Laughing at
you're,
it, about
yeah,
it,
laughing
yeah.
at it like.
Yeah.
And now you're like, that was the most vile, disgusting time of my life. I was in such ignorance. That's what you should be thinking.
Yeah.
You know, you should think, oh my God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved me. Look at the environment I was in. Even though, like, on face value, you're thinking, oh, I used to go to the shisha lounge and chill with my friends. That was such a vile, disgusting place where haram is. Like, I don't want anything to do with that place. That memory in my mind is a poison. You know?
Mm.
How often do we think like that?
Mm.
And that's, I think that's one of the shifts. So if you can put a hard stop to things like that, yeah, obviously major sins especially, minor sins inshallah as well, then of course everything after that is khair bi'idhnillah, because you're building a house on a clear, clean foundation. You know, you haven't got to demolish anything out of the way. You've got a flat
Yeah.
slate to build your good deeds on top of.
Stopping
Bi'idhnillah.
sins takes precedence over starting good
Yeah.
deeds. Yeah.
Because if you've got no sins, then what are you going to be punished for? You know, good deeds generally, apart from obviously the obligations. Obviously, not praying your obligations is a sin in itself. So let's say you're doing all your obligations, you've got no sins. What are you going to be punished for? Everything else is a bonus. Any extra good deeds you do is a bonus. If you just think, because how often? I mean, I know myself. I always say, oh, I need to do more good deeds. I need to do more good deeds, and then I start doing my day. And only like a couple of times in the day, I'm like, oh, I need to actively do a good deed now. What can I do? What can I do? Oh, should I do some charity? Should I go and help someone? What can I do? You know, because you just get so caught up in the cycle and the routine. However, a lot of us have bad deeds that are also caught up in our cycle in the routine.
Yes.
Things that are so subtle that we don't think about. You like swear or something, or shout at someone, or
Mm.
whatever. Backbiting. Oh my God! Don't even get me started on backbiting.
Yes.
I'm terrified, Akhi. I'm terrified, bro. God forbid I ever mention anybody's name. You know, that was one of my biggest fears, by the way, when like people come over to pay their respects. You know, whether it was the brothers that came to my house, whether it was the women that came to my mum's house, like I was terrified. I was reminding all my sisters, like, yo, if anybody comes to the house, you steer that conversation back. In fact, this is a good opportunity to give dawah to anybody that comes to the house, because all sorts of people are going to come, not just the ones that are practicing and whatever. Everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to come, because it's aib if you don't. You know, it's shameful if you don't come. So everybody has to call and whatever. Anyone that called me, bro, from a distant, you know, whether it's my cousins from distant I haven't spoken to in ages, or a long lost, bro, I had somebody that I hadn't spoken to since I was 17, actually. It was 10 years ago. Just called me out of the blue. I was like, who's this? He goes, oh, it's so-and-so. I was like, what even calling me? Well, we weren't even friends, but you've called me. May Allah bless you. Opportunity for dawah. Do you get me? Like, dawah, bro. Don't care. This is what it's about. You're calling me for death. You've come into the dawah arena, my friend, because this is what we're going to talk about. Because you're not going to call me and we're going to talk about, oh, yeah, so how's the kids? And you're going to talk to me about my father, and you're going to make dua for my father. And in that moment, I'm going to seize it, and I'm going to remind you that it's going to happen to you as well. Whether it's you going to die or someone close to you will. This is it. So when it comes to, that's the one thing I'd say, stack those good deeds up, bi'idhnillah, when it comes to, and push away any of that discussion and any off-topic. You know, I'm blessed to have a good group of brothers, alhamdulillah. When we get together, akhi, you know, there are reminders, and we speak about the deen, and we share the things that we've learned. Well, alhamdulillah. And I know a lot of people aren't blessed with that, and a lot of people have groups of friends that are, you might want that out of them, but they'll never go there, you know, and they won't discuss those things, and it gets awkward. Then, seize the moment and either start it yourself or get out of it, because there's no point. There really isn't. And look at this blessing of a podcast, alhamdulillah. I consider it a blessing because every week we can sit together and I can remind you, you can remind me, and we can remind, we forget we've got an audience, but actually our audience is there listening right now to this.
Yes.
So there is khair in it. I was cautious. I did have a second thought. I was like, mind heist, is it the right thing to do? I'm talking a lot and I should be silent more than I speak. But actually, I'm quite quiet throughout the whole week. Mind heist is my opportunity to just share something. And I pray Allah never lets us, never allows us to overstep our boundaries, with stuff like this. I don't think the deen is as complicated as some people try and make it. I think ultimately, on the face value, we're trying to do some good here. That's all we're doing, and I don't need a PhD to do that. I don't. And I'm not talking about anything that's too complicated. These are simple, everyday reminders that everybody's going to go through. Yeah. If you want a fatwa, you can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what? I know I'm talking so much, bro, but I did want to speak about my kids.
Yeah. Go
on. That night, they went up. My little one gives my dad a high five. Now my dad can't even move at this point, but he goes and does it anyway. Goes up to his room. My other one gives him a kiss. Suleiman, the oldest. And I must admit, a few days before all of this, he had somebody at his school, in reception, had lost their granddad. I think I might have mentioned this. I can't remember. Did I mention this about him?
I don't know if it's on the podcast or not. That you did,
I can't remember. I can't remember if I mentioned it last episode we did together. But he was just asking me, like, "Oh, are you gonna die? Like, are you gonna get old and die?"
Oh, yes. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I think I did. And I know that he's. I'm going to leave Ilyas out of the equation because he's so young. He doesn't know what's going on. But Suleiman is obviously a lot more conscious. He's 4 years old, 4.5, and I felt bad for him, bro. During this whole run up, I felt like I've neglected him. I'm there, but I'm not there. I'm home, but I'm not home. And he's keeping himself busy, whether he's drawing or playing on the Switch, whatever it is he's doing. Obviously, he was asleep when my dad passed away.
Yeah.
And it was 2 or 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning when they took him away. And so I woke up. I managed to get some sleep, but then I kind of woke up when he did, and I could hear my wife with him. I could hear that conversation because I didn't think I was going to catch it, but actually the conversation of my wife trying to explain why my dad wasn't there anymore. And he was like, "Where's Puppy?" He calls him Puppy. "Where's Puppy? Where's Puppy? Where's Puppy?" Disappeared. He'd gone to every single room in the house looking for him because he couldn't make sense of the fact that he wasn't in that bed anymore. He's looking. And obviously we'd prepped him about Jannah. We'd prepped him about... He'd already been prepped about death, but we'd prepped him a lot about Jannah. And he got a bit angry, bro. He was just like, "How did he go? Why did he go? Where has he gone?" And then he went and found his water bottle. And he was like, "Oh, Puppy's gone and he didn't take his water bottle. Why did he leave his water bottle?" And kids are resilient, bro. Like, he's upset. I know he's upset. And he's scarred with sickness in the sense that if somebody mentions they're sick, he freaks out a bit. So who was it that said they were sick the other day? Somebody in my family was poorly. I can't remember who it was. Not poorly like, but poorly like they had a cold or something. And as soon as he heard they were sick, he was like, "Oh, no, like, are they gonna go to Jannah? Are they gonna die?" You have to manage that and you have to try and... But he's a savage at the same time, Akhi. Like, the other day, I was just pondering to myself. He comes up to me. He's like, "What's wrong, Daddy?" I said, "Oh, I miss Puppy. Like, I miss my dad." He goes, "Well, unfortunately, he's dead." I was like, "Right. Thank you, son."
Whoa.
Obviously, like, he's trying to learn big words lately. But it just shows you, man, kids can be this and that. And it's how they deal with it. And may Allah bless him, bro. But he misses him, I'm sure he does. And he says, he references him a lot. And bi'idhnillah, he'll always have that memory of him. But you've got to try and prep your kids for stuff like this because I'm really conscious that for all these trials and stuff, I don't want to neglect him. I don't want to neglect explaining things to him. I was really conscious that night before of like, what if this house just turns chaotic, upside down, and they're caught in the middle of it? That's why I was like, "Oh, maybe I should just take them home. Maybe we shouldn't be here," because it would just be such a detrimental and dreadful experience for them to go through that. Because that would be, especially Suleiman, it would just be burnt in his mind. But But no, alhamdulillah, it's an opportunity once again for dawah, and you've got to practice. At least my methodology is to teach and always teach kids about Jannah. Jahannam maybe for when they're older. I don't want to freak them out now because they're not going to understand. They're 4 years old. But Jannah is an easy concept to understand. You can have anything you want. Anything I want? I want a big dragon. So he says, he goes, oh, Ya Allah, give me a big dragon. And then he goes, oh, there's no dragon. I said, it's not dragon here. You're going to wait for Jannah. You got to explain like this. You've got to just have fun with it. Don't be boring. Just go wild with it. Anything you want, go on. And just play that game in the car when you pick them up from school, whatever. And he reminded me. I picked him up a couple of days ago and he goes, Daddy, I told Eloise about Jannah. Like some girl at school. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. And then he goes, another day he was like, he goes, Allah didn't choose those guys to be Muslim. He goes, you know who's not going to Jannah? I was like, who? And he goes, birthday kids.
No.
Because we always say, oh, we're not going to do birthdays because he's always asking about birthdays because a lot of kids have birthdays. Obviously, I've never said it's haram and this and that. I just said we don't do that. We do Eid. You get 2 Eids. Like, it's great. You can have 2 sets of presents every year. But when somebody does a birthday, he gets like, oh, that's not right. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Then he'll go to Jannah. He doesn't know about hellfire. So don't take that as, oh, he's thinking about hell. He doesn't know about hell. He just knows about Jannah.
Yeah.
Music as well, bro. Like, if he knows that there's a Muslim, whether it's a friend or whatever, doing, like, listen to music or whatever, he'll be like, why is he not Muslim? And I'm like, whoa, that's what he meant. Slow down.
Yeah.
Because people start blaming us, like we're the parents and we've done this. No, this is a child's mind. Yeah, this is a child's mind exploring his world. This is... Anyway, that's another chapter for another day. But there's a lot. But bro, any questions for me? I think I've covered everything that's important.
I'm glad, bro.
What are you glad about?
Like, I thought maybe you wouldn't be able to do an episode for a while. Not because maybe you're busy with things, but just it would turn into just your own version of chaos. Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But well, I aspire to that state that you're in. Like,
I'm not any different than I was that day. I promise you. And I know I'm privileged. Wallahi, I'm privileged. I'm not trying to say I'm better than anyone. I've been blessed and privileged by Allah. But that's why that day...
It's just those 2 things, bro, yeah? Your feeling, your inclination, and you actually said you have certainty that your dad's okay. Yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is that you're also confident that you did your duty to him. Yeah. If you got those 2 things, I mean, what's a believer to do other than that? What's a believer to worry about other than those 2 things, right? Obviously, they miss them and all of that, but the believer has that conviction that if those 2 things are sorted, all is good. Like you said, now it's just like, let me make sure that I get on the same train to Jannah kind of thing.
Absolutely. There is a phase 2 of like, okay, let's take care of the dunya stuff that dad left behind, the things that he would wanted me to take care of. That phase 2 is obviously ramping up now. How I'll feel about the whole thing when I'm trying to get through this phase.
Yeah, it's true.
This could be many years. That's a different
But this
story.
will be something interesting to listen to years in the future for you,
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, like, I wanted to do this episode that night. It was like the next day I'd come here.
Wow.
I'd come here. He hadn't even been buried yet. He was still, and I had all these thoughts, subhanAllah. And I'd come here, and I sat down. I was about to do it, and then my mum called me. I really needed to go back, so I didn't do it then. But I had all of this to say. Everything I've said, I can't think of anything really else. There's probably more, but whatever. And I wanted to share it because it was like a good news that you want to share, and it was like lessons that I'd never really, like, my house has always been about sharing our lessons and sharing what can of good. This was like the strongest, most impactful lesson. Doesn't match to anything, like, all of the stuff I've seen at work and whatever. It didn't hold weight like this holds weight. Walillahi alhamd, and may Allah allow us all to benefit from it. And I'll probably listen to this episode again in a year or two. I probably will. If this ever fades, this feeling, which I hope it doesn't, I hope it only gets stronger. If this ever fades, Akhi, I could listen back to this and be like, yo, that's how I felt. My son could listen back to this one day and say, oh, this is how dad felt when his dad died. So if I was to pass away, this is for my son as well. That is a lesson. Actually, I will make that note to my sons, to my kids, whoever. I might have more kids, subhanAllah.
Inshallah.
That if you listen to this, then learn from this. That's all I'll say. And I'm sure likewise for you, Akhi, and your kids. If they listen to this, then they can learn from this. That's reinvigorated my Mind Heist journey. I did a video series before on YouTube. I started like 1 or 2 episodes. They were called Letters to Sulaiman or Letters to My Son or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I did 1 or 2 and I just couldn't. It wasn't the format that was suitable.
This is the format.
100 and whatever episodes in, my son will know me deeply for all of this.
Yeah.
He'll know how I thought, because I don't think I talk or think any differently when I'm on here than I do in real life. And this is an absolute time capsule for those that come after.
Bro, you're not even 30. I mean, most people these days, they have their parents till after 30, isn't it? So it's an early...
Yeah. I mean, my grandmother's still alive.
Yeah. So
my father's mother is still alive. May Allah have mercy on her. And what a feeling that must be.
Yeah, that's difficult.
I need to get there as soon as possible, bi'idhnillah. That's an amana. When your father leaves his mother behind, who's going to care for her but you?
Yeah.
I've got the same name as him. I'm the next best thing. That's what I told her on the phone. There's no difference. Me walking through that door is the same as him. That's the best you can do. I am obviously, alhamdulillah. I mean, I am torn, bro. I'm all over the place. I'm split here and I'm split there and I'm here, and there's only one of me. I wish there was 4, but alhamdulillah, bro. Like I said, when it gets tough, Akhi, ultimate lesson, and I'll end it with this: Allah put you in this tough situation, so who else is going to get you out but Him? Yeah, ultimately, it. No situation is too big for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He created the situation, He placed you in it. Right, are you going to pass this test or not? Rely on Him, tawakkal on Him, and He'll get you out of it, bi'idhnillah. That's
no other way to go.
Absolutely.
No other source of power or anything.
Absolutely, my brother.
Jazakallah khair, man. Honestly,
not a single tear shed, bro. We're about this life. Bro, I've cried my tears, bro. Look, anybody who thinks I don't love my dad, I absolutely love my dad to bits.
You're feeling guilty now. You have to make the disclaimers, yeah?
Yeah, because I don't want people thinking that my relationship was weak. No, like, imagine, I know I keep saying I'll end with this, but imagine, like, I only really knew my dad just before he died. That's when I met him, because there were so many barriers and things in between and all this stuff, and we couldn't even sit and talk to each other because we were shy. And I said to him, one of the last things I said to him was like, I think we were too shy of each other, Dad. I think you were shy to be yourself with me because you had to have this, and I was way too shy to just be serious with you without the expectations getting in the way, because I know my dad wants more of me, and I know he wants, I want more of him. I wanted more from him and he wanted more from me, and because of that there was a shyness. But then, alhamdulillah, it is what it is.
It was 2 years, right? Where like the diagnosis or whatever was like 2 years.
Just under, yeah. I mean, what is it? January now, February, March, April, around that time we found out. So yeah, I'm going to say 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we said in that previous episode, like that's a blessing as well. Absolutely. That's more generosity from Allah. Like you said, for your dad to have that reminder, and for all of you to prepare in a way.
Yeah, it's a privilege, Akhi. That's why I can't complain. I cannot in the slightest, God forbid I ever say why. Those 3 letters, Akhi.
Yeah.
WHY. Like, why would I ever say that? How could I ask for anything more? Obviously, you could always say, I want him to be a shaheed. I'd like him to die on the battlefield defending the Muslims. 1 versus 1,000. Okay, that was a beautiful death. It was a beautiful death. I say that to everybody. You die in your son's hands, surrounded by the people you love. On a Friday. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for sharing, bro. And inshallah, a lot of people are going to benefit, definitely. And turn this, I don't know, whatever the listeners might be feeling now and thinking, turn it into some sort of action, isn't it? Like we said.
Inshallah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Will you be with us next episode? You don't know.
I'm waiting for some paperwork. They said 10 days. I should be here. I don't know. I've got my kids at some point. My mother-in-law's not very well. Anyway, long story short, I'll do my best. Otherwise, have another guest, I guess, or we'll do something.
Inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.